Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Jonny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Good afternoon, Beer Geeks. Happy Friday. I want a beer.
Well, I've actually got a beer, but I'm going to wait to crack it until we get talking properly.
It's not like you to wait. You're not a man like I see staring at unopened bottles often.
Well, you know, I have got my cupboard of doom, so they're all unopened. But yes, you're right. I do like a drink, Jonny. And our video this week was all about having a drink and possibly hunting the Holy Grail, the best beer in the world.
Yeah, it was a big topic. I don't know whether I expressed my concerns to you or not when we were thinking about doing this video, but it was a question that we were constantly getting. But I was just a little bit worried it would seem clickbaity, but it's definitely not been received that way, which is really heartening.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's definitely not, just to, hopefully everyone's watched it by now. No spoilers or anything, but it's not a clickbait video, is it, Jonny? It's an in-depth discussion, almost about like why not about specific beers necessarily, but like what does being the best beer in the world mean to us? What criteria can we put on it, and how can we quantify it?
Exactly.
It's much deeper than the clickbait video for sure.
Yeah, it's a discussion about if there is a best beer in the world, what would it take for a beer to be called that? But yeah, I guess I was worried that people would watch the video and be like, wait, you're not actually going to tell us what the best beer is in the world. I came here to know.
Well, we've speculated at length about, several different beers that mean a lot to us and our sort of contenders that we'd potentially put forward for being best beer in the world.
Yeah, and we came to a quite remarkable conclusion, which is a Navy frigate in the middle of the Atlantic, so that our two favourite beers could possibly be distributed to there.
Yes.
I mean, so just to recap over it, because there have been so many comments on that video. It's done really, really well, and it's been great to see everybody engaging in the debate. It's been really interesting to see that I thought everyone would come on and in the comments just mention endless different beers and there'd be zero consensus. But actually, Focal Banger did turn out to be a really popular choice, as did Pilsner Urquell. So those were our two that we sort of mooted might be ours. But also outside of that, there were so many people talking about similar beers. Sierra Nevada came up quite a bit. A lot of classic British ales did. Timothy Taylor's was mentioned. Orval was actually probably the most popular.
We kind of like missed a trick there. I don't know why. I was thinking Orval when we were recording it, but then I just got waylaid by chat of naval frigates and such.
Yeah, I think it's just because when we moved over to Belgium, which was part of our sort of very loose script, I immediately went into Lambic. And somehow we got to Westmalle and never mentioned, and West Veteran and never mentioned Orval, but Orval should 100% have been part of that conversation. And every time somebody sent a comment going, "What about Orval?" I kicked myself.
I mean, certainly the best beer in the world to match with Pickled Onion Monster Munch. There's no question.
An equally important question.
Hands down, Orval. Any age Orval. Hit it with some pickled onion. Boom.
Absolutely. I'll put a link to that video in the podcast descriptions in case people haven't seen that life-changing moment in our lives.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, so we missed out on Orval. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. You know, I thought everyone would be, doing a little bit of penis swinging about, the greatest beers that they'd ever tried. But actually, people genuinely got on board with the rules of, it's got to be something that's available all year round. It's got to be something that's approachable and suitable for any occasion. And Sierra Nevada Pale Ale actually would be a really great shout for that. Unfortunately, we couldn't really talk about it because I've never really had it in absolute bang fresh condition.
No. Me neither, mate.
It is a bit of a bucket list thing for me.
It's still totally like on my bucket list, I want to go to Torpedo Room and drink Torpedo. I'm
not even convinced they still make that beer, Brad.
Well, I want to build a time machine and then I want to drink Torpedo in Torpedo Room.
Maybe they'd make it for us if they have stopped.
Yeah. Well, we should do a clone of it, definitely. When we get in full swing. But, yeah, man, I was genuinely just, like, really loved all of the comments and just the warmth that it was received with. Genuinely people sharing their best beer experiences, which we kind of decided it's wrapped up with a lot of emotions, like the best beer in the world, for me and you is kind of intertwined with who we've been with, what we've been doing, the place we're sat. It's such all of our emotions come into play, and it's such an emotive thing. That it was great to hear all of these amazing stories that people had about their particular best beers in the world, and where they might be and what they might have been up to with who when they were drinking them.
Yeah, which we were trying to cut through a little bit and try and go like, let's try and separate it from personal memory and stuff like that. But I mean, the comment that I've picked out from all of those comments kind of destroys that theory entirely and says that that's probably not possible. So it was from JS4 Directions, and he said, beer, like music, is not enjoyed in a vacuum. Every beer adds to the personal playlist of everything you've ever tried, and your perception of a beer is dictated in part by previous experiences and the environment you're in. A roundabout way of saying that there can, in my opinion, never be a consensus about the world's best beer, simply a favourite at the current moment, which is definitely true. So we tried to say, take emotion out of it and try and find a beer that would be suitable for everything. And JS4 Directions is probably rightly saying that's impossible.
I'd love to hear that comment read out by Morgan Freeman in a really slow, sort of emotive way. I think it'd be great. Or potentially Tom Hanks in A Life is Like a Box of Chocolates type speech.
It is one of those, so many comments on YouTube, you feel like they were just sort of written in 30 seconds, full of typos, just this is my view and I'm angry. Whereas some you read and they're just like, that is a beautifully considered, very concise little argument that you've put together there that just, I mean, I wouldn't say it destroys the video. Like, I think our video is still super valid, and what we wanted to do with that is get the conversation going around what makes a truly brilliant, like untouchable and almost kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Just transcendent beer that, doesn't need to be linked to the environment. And I think, to be honest, our conclusion kind of was the same as JS4 Directions, which is it's really hard to do that because even though we said Pilsner Urquell and Focal Banger could be great in any situation, they're still at their absolute best in those situations, and we've only enjoyed them in certain situations too.
Big time. Well, yeah, that's it. You can always have a bad pint of something that's still amazing, and that just sort of adds to the mystique of when you get a perfect pint somewhere perfect, and it's just a wonderful experience. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought that 400 odd people in a day would have got so excited about beer that they've all shared their greatest ever beer experience with us.
Yeah, it's nice. I'd like to think they're all smiling as they write those comments, reliving those moments.
Yeah, it's great. I think we're all kind of living vicariously at the moment. We're not able to get out in the world and do all these things that we used to do. So it's lovely. We've been trying to sort of think a bit sideways about the content we make on the channel, and how we can be doing it amidst a global pandemic, and sort of doing videos like this where we can all get, a little bit teary-eyed about, our favourite experiences and speculate on issues that, we're not able to go out and actually experience in the real world right now, but kind of just to sort of go on an internal travel of the mind, Jonny, and ponder a bit in our videos about what could be to come, hopefully.
Pontificating, I think that's what we were doing. Yeah.
That's it. Great stuff.
Just before we move on, I know you've got a comment you want to dive into, but just something that really struck me about the idea of beer being inextricably linked to where you are and also your experiences beforehand. I remember being in Philadelphia back when I was working at Cave Direct, and I was there with 2 colleagues for the craft beer conference, and we were really excited for him to try Pliny the Elder for the first time because it's served at Monk's Cafe in Philadelphia. And because it was the craft beer conference, the rest of the world was also there in Monk's Cafe, either for the really rare and delicious Belgian stuff they have, or the local stuff, or indeed that Pliny line. And it was so busy that we were just like hunched up in a corner drinking it, and we kind of all agreed that it was a shit experience. And while I recognised that beer was delicious because, I'd had it before and I had that memory of it being delicious in my head, for Will, who I was with, who had never tasted it before, he now runs Manchester Union, a great lager brewery. He thought the beer was rubbish.
Man.
Because of that situation that he was in.
Yeah.
So that's, his view of Pliny is that it's not a very good beer, and it's entirely linked to the situation in which he had it first. I need to check if he's had it since and if it's any better for him. But it is really hard to just drink a beer in isolation. So it was a futile endeavour, but it was a good intellectual exercise, I think.
Defo. I wonder if there's something to be said for like a sort of a yoga and beer class where we could get very zen about the drinking experience and sort of shut out all of our worldly sort of stimuli and just focus on drinking a beer. Does anyone do that? Does anyone do yoga beer classes, Jonny?
Yeah, it's a big thing. Brewery yoga or beer yoga. It's massive.
I can't tell whether you're joking or not. I invented something.
It is genuinely all over the world.
Okay. Oh, fair.
Which I would love to get you doing a class of.
Yeah. I think that'd be fun, right?
It would be.
I also want to do
some of them you have beer while you're doing it. Some of them you just like get a discount on beer afterwards.
Okay.
It's just a way of getting people in. But yeah, beer yoga is a thing.
Beer yoga. Well, okay. If it's already a thing, Jonny, I want to do goat and beer yoga. So baby goats jumping on your back while you're doing yoga and drinking beer.
So let's go to Little Earth or Jester King, somebody with nearby goats.
That's it, mate. Or we could go to our mate Telltale Food, wherever he is these days.
Yeah, he was the goats I was thinking of with Little Earth.
You're right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. They don't have their own goats. He doesn't live anywhere near them now, but yeah, I'm sure they could find a herd of goats for us to
just do some goat rustling.
Those little fuckers, I reckon you couldn't rustle a single one of them. They are speedy.
They're pretty wily creatures, aren't they?
They are feisty. They've got little pointy horns. I actually got attacked by a goat when I was probably about 4 years old. When I say attacked, I don't know if attacked's the right word, but
you felt I was
attacked. I was stood in a pub garden in the countryside with my family. I think it was a pub garden, and a goat came up to me and headbutted me in the chest and smashed me to the floor. I probably did deserve it, but yeah. You know, goats, they like to headbutt each other, don't they, and stuff. So, yeah, anyway, I got headbutted by a goat when I was about 4. And I haven't been the same since, obviously.
Before that, you didn't go off on wild tangents.
No. It unlocked my higher level of thinking when it knocked me out. Yeah.
It's like Obelix falling in the magic potion as a kid. You got knocked over by a goat.
That's it.
And got your superpowers.
That's it.
Let's move on. What was your favourite comment on the video?
Yeah, so I at the end of the video I go off on one about you know, we picked a beer from Europe, we picked a beer from America, and they were, you know, Jonny versus Brad's potential best beers in the world. I suggested that the best beer experience, I think you mooted the point that like a bar that served both of them would be the ultimate bar.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if you're going to do that, you have to put it in the mid-Atlantic, and it has to be on the deck of a naval frigate, and we're going to get Harrier jump jets to bring in our 4-pack of Pilsner Urquell and our tank beer of Pilsner Urquell and our 4-pack of Focal Banger from each side of the Atlantic. And Oscar Bot 9000's comment was to add to the Urquell / Focal Banger bar idea, all beer is elevated a few notches when consumed on a boat.
He's not wrong.
I have to agree with him. I think, you know, like, I don't know what it is about water. Water I find very calming. They do say that's a sign of a psychopath. But I think most people find water very calming.
Isn't it more unsettled? Isn't it schizophrenia and anxiety and such, rather than a psychopath? Psychopaths are always calm.
Well, yes, they are always calm. They have very little emotions because they're, psychopathic, and they don't have emotions as such like normal folk. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to pretend I am, actually.
Just in case anybody wasn't aware, neither Brad or me.
I'm backing off of this comment, but I do find water incredibly calming, and I fucking love boats. So, yeah. Mate, you probably like boats a little bit as well, I imagine.
I come from a boating family.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't want to out you as being a boating family, but you've outed yourself there, so it's fine. Yeah, you've grown up with, like, you know, being able to go on a sailing boat at points, right?
Yeah, my dad's lifetime passion was sailing, and when I left home, he bought himself a boat, and now I never see him or my mum. Basically,
I mean, I feel great for them and everything.
They did their job.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, mate, I love boats. I still want to get us on the deck of their boat in pastel Duran Duran suits, singing
Rio.
a cover of Rio. You know, while drinking all numerous kinds of colourful beers.
There is actually an episode of the Craft Beer Channel where I am drinking on a boat. It is a really old video where I went to Stavanger to Watts Brewing Festival, and I introduce it while on a boat. And I think I do I'm on a boat, motherfucker. So I'm quoting... what's his name?
Something about Lonely Island?
Sandberg. Adam Sandberg's...
is that Lonely Island?
Song about I'm on a boat. Yeah, Lonely Island, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you threw me with the name there. I was like, what?
The real guy's name.
Yeah. It sort of sounded like you were saying Adam Sandler. I'm pretty sure he's not in Lonely Island.
No, Sandberg.
Okay, that's his lesser known cousin. Yeah. So, and also we were on a boat in Czech Republic last time we were out there.
We were drinking open fermented. Yeah, beers open fermented on a boat. That was mental.
It sounds like a mad idea having an open fermenter on a boat.
Yeah, and they'd had to put it on an axle, hadn't they, so that it swung
it was on like
with
a
the
gyroscope.
Boat, so it stayed.
It's fucking cool. It's great.
I don't know whether it was a gyroscope. I don't think it went in all directions. Did it?
Come on, Johnny. It was a gyroscope. Let's keep the illusion alive. It was basically like a sort of 1980s Lawnmower Man-esque gyroscope, like a virtual reality gyroscope.
It was. It was just like that.
Yourself in.
But you'll definitely see that. Not be disappointed when you click on the link to the video that I'll put in the description box.
I'm sure it was gyroscopic. It would have to go both ways. So, like, you get the things that... Because it'd have to be level from all ways, mate, on a boat, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't think the boat ever goes anywhere, so I think it only ever really rocked in two directions. Okay. But I'm still spoiling the effect, so I humbly apologise and say gyroscope, definitely
gyroscope.
Yeah. So, if you haven't seen the video from this week, do check it out. That link will be below as well, and you can get involved in the debate. We'd love to hear your views. And as we said in the video, if we get lots of votes for a certain beer that we haven't tried or haven't visited the brewery of, we will go. So it looks like we're going to see Orval, basically. Which I have done very briefly and is a beautiful place, so maybe we should see if they'll let us film there. Shall we move on to our question of the week?
It's about that time, mate.
I think it is. So this question comes from Niles Raddle, who messaged in from over in the States. Let's see what Niles wants to know.
Hey, Johnny and Brad. Niles here from New England, USA. And after getting introduced to the channel just about a year ago or so, I've really enjoyed the content and think it's very well produced. Even though I grew up here in New England, your documentary helped me appreciate so much more the stellar beer scene we have here. And as you alluded to in this week's video, you got some Allagash White muled over to you in London. But it made me think, what American beers do you, I'll put this in air quotes, get regular access to? And how did that compare to your experience having some of those same beers stateside? Looking forward to some more great content in 2021. Cheers.
So cheers to you, Niles. Just to quickly clear something up, we said muled in the video. Technically, it was a legitimate import from Cloudwater. Cloudwater brought some over, although we have frequently had some beers muled over. Just not the Allagash White. We have too much respect for Allagash White.
You were just trying to sound more dangerous and edgy in the video, weren't you, Johnny?
I was trying to sound edgy, and I was found out. I had to. Can't deal with lying to people.
Pop your collar up and put on some man mascara when you said it, just so it looks extra devilish. We got these muled.
Yes. Anyway, so what beers can we regularly get in the UK? At the moment, not many.
No.
What's really interesting is the UK craft beer movement was, inspired by a couple of things. Mostly, forward-thinking brewers such as Martin Dickey of Thornbridge and then Brewdog. Mark down at, he was at Hophead and then he started Burning Sky. He was brewing with American hops. Kelham Island Brewery, who won the first ever Great British Beer Festival awards with an American hop beer back in 2004, I think. So there were those people, but there was also American beer coming over back then. So we had what we call now the Holy Trinity, which is Anchor Steam Beer, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and Brooklyn Lager. And they were, for probably a decade, pretty prevalent, right?
Yeah, they were everywhere, mate. To the point where I think the first craft beer that I had would have been Brooklyn Lager when I'm talking about American craft beer here, obviously.
Yeah.
When I first worked for Jamie Oliver, when I must have been about 23 years old. I'm now 38 years old. So this is a bloody long time ago.
So we're talking like 2001 or 2.
Yeah, it was like absolutely ages ago. It was at a Christmas party and he'd got this stuff in and I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy. I haven't tried a beer like this before. So I think maybe he was a bit more worldly wise back then. So he probably had better access than, just being able to get it in a corner shop or a supermarket. But, certainly I was drinking Anchor, the Trinity, like you say, for many, many years and being quite happy about it and probably not realising that they'd had a bit of a hard life getting here and they shouldn't really taste quite so cardboardy in places.
Yeah, Brooklyn Lager I think doesn't have such a tough time getting over and it's not as hoppy a beer, so that usually tasted pretty good. But I think I remember associating, that kind of dull marmalade and slightly cardboardy flavour with hoppy beer for a long time until the UK really got its act together with American style brewing. Because, I was drinking Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. I also remember memorably, I don't know whether you were there, Brad, when I was at Jamie Oliver and we were both there, we went to a pub near the office that was called The Star, and I ordered a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale and they stuck a lime in it.
Fucking hell. I remember that pub, I'm doing air quotes when I say pub.
Yeah,
it was a bit of a weird pub.
Yeah.
But, fuck. That is crazy shit. No, if someone had done that to me, I would have laughed in their face, I think.
I tried not to do that. I just took the lime out and was like, that was weird.
Fuck?
But
you put it in the top of the bottle?
Yeah, like a Corona.
That's equally mental. I thought you meant like he served you a draft pint and then put like a slice of lime in it, like
a twist on the Hogarden Orange.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? That, you know what? That does vaguely ring a bell. Maybe I had a same experience in there, or you've just told me about it before.
Yeah, maybe I've told the story before.
Wow,
But yeah,
man.
so that was what we got up until about 2012. And actually, those three beers have kind of disappeared mostly from the UK. Like Oscar Blues was coming over, and that was exciting, having like 10 Fiddy and Dale's Pale Ale, which are still great beers.
Racer 5 for me, mate. I used to drink that a lot back in the day. That was coming over.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, all of the old school famous breweries in the UK came over, and then once the craft beer revolution really took off in the UK, and we've now got 2,500 breweries. We mostly, aside from some of those Holy Trinity beers being in supermarkets and stuff, and the odd Sierra Nevada draft line, I think Fuller's still has them in most of their pubs. It's mostly sort of hype cans that come over, particularly from New York, like Finback, Other Half, Equilibrium, Barrier, that come over in cold containers and make a little splash for a couple of weeks, and everybody's paying $10 a can, and then they disappear again.
It's super weird, really, when you think about it. Like, why isn't it more easily distributed in the UK? We can only speak for the UK. We can't really speak for the rest of Europe. But I want to be drinking great American canned stuff all the time, you know. But like you say, all we can get really is supermarket offerings. Like Brooklyn is everywhere in the supermarkets, you know.
Well, I mean, it's a really tall ask particularly because you're being charged £8 to £10 a can for something that's no better than we can make in the UK, really.
Yeah.
It's sort of for the tickers who want to try these beers that they've heard so much about, particularly when like Other Half come over. So yeah, there's not really a market for beer that's nearly twice the price, but not twice the quality. Although I'm sure there's people out there that would argue that that's true of English-made American IPAs.
I'll tell you one nice memory I had about Anchor Steam Beer was before we started Craft Beer Channel. I went out to San Francisco with my girlfriend at the time, and I'd pre-booked a brewery tour around Anchor Steam in San Francisco, and it was honestly it was one of the best brewery tours I've ever been on. It's just a beautiful building, really, really super friendly staff. I think they said it was almost like a cooperative the way they were working. It was really cool, really San Francisco, really progressive. We got to the end, and there was the coolest little bar inside this kind of like, I guess it's like an Art Deco-y sort of building. Really historic bar, looked like a sort of Victorian bar inside the building, and all of the staff were hanging out there. They were liberally just pouring whatever we wanted for free. I drank so much, Johnny. All these different kinds of offerings I didn't even knew they made. It was wonderful. And then I got so drunk that I ended up spending probably like $100 on merchandise.
That's how they get you.
So I was like,
don't pay for the beer,
okay.
But got to exit through the gift shop.
Yeah, and I also bought like these amazing titanium Anchor Steam brewery bottle openers that were in the shape of a bottle, which I still have one of now, which I love, but it's too fiddly to put in my pocket all the time. But it's beautiful, and that was great, and that, you know, I still I hold a special place in my heart for them because of that.
Yeah, well, I think there is a generation of British beer drinkers who still regard those kind of breweries as wonderful, sort of historic things that they'd love to visit, in the same way that maybe American drinkers might regard Fuller's and Green King and those kind of brands, Harvey's. It's interesting how they see us as this great traditional brewing scene, and they want to go to all the guys that we think are slightly dull. And then when we go over to America, like, we're interested in the hype stuff, but the breweries I'm most excited to visit, not necessarily taste the beer, but visit, are the ones that probably Americans just consider old hat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting relationship across the Atlantic in terms of what beer geeks sort of think of our different markets and our beers. But in terms of what comes over, the really hypey, exciting stuff, I've never had anything really that's made me go, whew, America is still streets ahead. I just think America has more strength in depth, perhaps, than the UK, with 8,000 brewers and some really much stronger QA, quality assurance practices and stuff like that the UK is still catching up on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we'd love to have some more American beer. In fact, there's a new American beer importer. I forget the name of it, bringing over Bronx and Three Sons and some other breweries from all over the Definitive, who are like opposite Allagash up in Maine. Not quite sure how they've selected these breweries, but it's exciting to have some more stuff coming in, and I'll be grabbing some next opportunity I get once I'm actually drinking again.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, which is it's going okay. I'm not going to tell you it's fun, but it's going to be a great video. I've spoken to some really amazing experts about what's going on in our bodies with alcohol and when we give up alcohol. So it's going to be a great video at the very least.
Dry January.
That's what I keep telling myself.
You're holding there strong, mate. I've got a lot of respect for you.
Okay.
While I'm sipping my Pilsner Urquell right now.
Screw you, buddy. Screw you.
Oh,
and a great way to finish the podcast with you revealing the beer that you were teasing at the start.
Exactly. If you stay till the end, then now you know what the beer is for me.
Right, we're going to call it quits there. Again, we've gone way over time, but hey, it's always better that way, we're told. So yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. We've got a big upload happening on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that, and we'll of course be back next Friday. And we do have a Bubble podcast in the works, either next week or the week after. We'll let you know soon as we know. Love and beer.
Nice.
The Bubble Podcast is brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer channel. Head to youtube.com/the Craft Beer channel to watch this week's video and over 400 more exciting episodes. If you love what we do, please do subscribe and even join our Patreon at patreon.com/craftbeer channel. Love and beer.